Christmas Eve isn't supposed to feel like this, but what if I told you on the most festive night of the year, a simple trip to the grocery store turned into something out of a nightmare? It's the night before Christmas, and the air is alive with joy, excitement, and last-minute chaos. The streets are packed, the stores are buzzing, and everyone's rushing to grab their final holiday essentials. But for one shopper in a small-town grocery store, this Christmas Eve was anything but merry. Stick around, because this isn't your typical holiday story. It's the kind that makes your spine tingle and keeps you looking over your shoulder. It started innocently enough. Mia had just realized she was out of marshmallows for the hot chocolate her nieces loved. She glanced at the clock. 10:15 p.m. Plenty of time, she thought. The store was open until midnight. She grabbed her coat, braced against the biting wind, and made her way to the corner grocery store. The parking lot was eerily empty for such a busy evening, but Mia brushed it off. It was late after all. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed softly, illuminating aisles lined with festive decorations and half-empty shelves. A cheerful holiday jingle played faintly over the speakers, but it sounded distorted, like a warped vinyl record. As Mia wandered through the aisles, something felt off. There was a strange stillness, an unnatural quiet, broken only by the occasional creak of a shopping cart wheel. She passed the canned goods, then the bakery, but saw no other shoppers, not even an employee. She thought she heard footsteps behind her and turned quickly. Nothing. Just an empty aisle filled with brightly colored cereal boxes. She laughed nervously, shaking off the feeling. "Get a grip, Mia. It's just late," she whispered to herself. Mia finally reached the aisle with the marshmallows. She grabbed a bag and tossed it into her basket. As she turned to leave, she froze. At the far end of the aisle stood a man. He was tall, with a disheveled appearance and eyes that seemed wrong, too wide, too intense. He wasn't moving, just staring at her. "Can I help you?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. No response. He tilted his head slightly, like a predator observing prey. She quickly backed out of the aisle, her heart pounding. She made her way to the checkout lanes, her footsteps quickening. The lanes were empty. No cashier, no other customers. The lights flickered above her, and the music grew fainter, as if the speakers were dying. Suddenly, the overhead intercom crackled to life. "Attention, shoppers!" a distorted voice announced. "The store will be closing in 10 minutes. Please make your way to the exits." But the exits were dark. The automatic doors weren't opening. It felt like she was trapped in some sort of twisted funhouse. She looked around, hoping to spot an employee, anyone who could explain what was happening. That's when she heard it, a low, guttural growl. It wasn't human. She spun around, clutching her basket like a lifeline. From the shadows near the produce section, something emerged. It crawled on all fours, its limbs impossibly long, its face distorted, almost animalistic, but not quite. Mia dropped her basket and ran. The aisles seemed endless. No matter which direction she turned, she ended up back where she started. The distorted jingle played louder now, almost mocking her. She darted down an aisle, only to come face to face with the man again. This time, he smiled. His teeth were jagged and unnaturally sharp. "You shouldn't have come here tonight," he whispered. The lights went out completely. Mia screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the oppressive darkness. She could hear them now, Multiple sets of footsteps, whispers that weren't words, and that terrible growling. Her phone. She fumbled for it, the tiny flashlight her only hope. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing nothing. No man, no creature, just empty aisles. Her breathing was ragged as she moved cautiously, the light shaking in her trembling hand. Suddenly, something yanked the phone from her grip. She stumbled back, her head hitting a shelf. Pain exploded and her vision blurred. She could hear them closing in, their breaths hot and wet. And then, silence. When she woke up, she was lying in the parking lot, the cold pavement biting into her skin. The marshmallows were still clutched in her hand. The store lights were off, and the closed sign hung in the window. She scrambled to her feet and ran to her car. As she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Standing at the store's entrance was the man, smiling that same jagged smile, and behind him, the faint outline of something crawling. Mia never spoke of that night. The grocery store closed permanently a week later, and the building was demolished shortly after. But every Christmas Eve, when the clock strikes midnight, she swears she can hear that distorted holiday jingle and the faint sound of growling in the distance. If you're still here, don't forget to check out the next story. It's even scarier than this one.